Welcome. We're going to look at two of the Songs of Ascent in this session as we look at the things that are essential in our discipleship, our long obedience in the same direction, and what we need for that journey of over mountains and through the valleys that begins in Psalm 120. We're going to look at Psalm 126 and then Psalm 127. So let me start with Psalm 126. When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dreamed. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. Then it was said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy. He starts with looking back to the past of what God has done, maybe in the Exodus from Egypt, or more likely from the return from the exile in Babylon, as God frees his people and brings them back to the land. It's one of the few, if not the only, historical event in which a people was exiled to another nation and then still returned to their land. It was a time of happiness and joy, but also stress and rebuilding and threat, if you read Nehemiah. And as you think about those, it says the Lord has done great things for us. Past. Why is that important? Because in the Hebrew mind, the past tells the character of God. So we look back in order to know what God is doing now and in the future, where he's headed. And this is the way the psalm captures that, because in verse 3, he turns to the present. The first two verses look back to the past of God doing a great thing. And then he says, but he's done great things for us, and we are filled, present tense, with joy. Present tense. What God is doing now is what he did in the past. But then look in verse 4. Restore our fortunes, Lord, like streams in the Negev. Those who sow with tears will reap with songs of joy. Those who go out weeping, carrying seed to sow, will return with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with them. It's so important that we understand that joy is a part of our journey, our discipleship, our relationship with God. And that joy is something much deeper than circumstances that are around us. It can't be touched by just the events of the day, regardless of the tears. It's part of joy to understand that God can take our tears and bring them back with songs of joy, with abundance and growth. We're not lost in our pain. We're not lost in our tears. And God, in the past, has given us great things. In the present, he gives us great things, and he restores our future and gives us a future of great things as well. That's joy. It's part of our equipment for the journey. In fact, without joy, we would often give up on the journey. We would look around us and say, well, what's the use? Well, that's what comes next. What's the use? What do we do? Psalms 127. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain. In vain you rise up early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat, for he grants sleep to those he loves. The Lord who builds the house. Well, we're tempted to think of brick and mortar and windows and doors and stuff like that, or a city in which we look at walls and buildings and security and those kinds of things. And we need to understand that cities are not buildings. Cities are people who have banded together, and they have something common in interest, and they have a security and a commitment to relationship. And when that relationship begins to disintegrate or gets threatened, the city begins to fall apart. I mean, we're seeing it over and over again right now. A city is more than the buildings. It's the heart of the people to solve the problems. It's the heart of the people to come together it's a house that's being built. And in Hebrew, the house stands for the people. It stands for clan and family and tribe and the people that live together in a common core commitment to the welfare of each other. That's what a city is. And what God is building is a city. And then he goes on and takes one unit of that as an illustration. Verse 3, children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in one's youth. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be put to shame when they contend with their opponents in court. In other words, that clan, that family, is core as an illustration. It's an illustration, not necessarily a promise. You can say, well, I haven't been able to have children, and so God hates me and I'm not blessed. No, that's not the point. The point is that in looking at an illustration, he takes a family and says, this is what holds a family together. It's our heritage. It's a great reward. You can be a part of a family. In fact, that's what Jesus brings in amongst us. It is a family that becomes a church, and it's that core commitment of joy that rests inside that family of God that holds us together as his city that he's building. That's the work. That's the goal. It starts in joy in Psalm 126, and then he gives us the illustration of a city, a house, a family, a tribe, a nation. And those things come with great effort, a lot of work, great sacrifice, and a lot of love.